Yeah, cozy everybody, because yeah, we'll continue our game called The Devil's Whisper. Where were we? I think we got beat up by our own father. Let's see. Is it here? Daddy, don't fight me. It wasn't just I couldn't fight, I just didn't wanna. Was. From I thought I said axis. From across the room, I could hear my parents talking.
Are you done with her?
Like a filthy animal.
Yes, I left her alone for now.
Oh shit. You left me alone all bloodied and bruised. Let me just edit it. There we go. I wonder if this is enough. Looks okay on my end.
Ugh, that poor child. She seems to be straying further and further from the path of righteousness every day.
No help from you.
I've always said it. Children have to be treated with an iron fist.
An iron fist to the face, really?
If not, they grow up to be pussies who only talk about ridiculous emotions.
I'm gonna shut my mouth. Tears fell from my eyes to the floor in droves. Listening to my parents' way of expressing themselves about me had always hurt me, but never as much as today. It was as if a series of bells were ringing in me to tell me that there was no escape from this torture. My path was this: to live condemned to be a controlled scourge at the will of the beings who gave me life. But nothing I did was going to change the situation. My parents were never going to reflect on their actions, let alone become better people. I wonder if they're gonna make a deal with the devil if Claire's parents ever meet up with the devil. But there was something I still had left. Something that belonged only to me and no one else. Main character power. And that was my life. Oh yeah, that too. Only I could make the decision to end this once and for all. What do you mean? You're gonna kill yourself? Uh-oh. Not only to end the hell I was living in because of my parents, but to end this whole problem. This burden that has been tormenting us for days. So what you gonna do about it? Everything was within reach of a hand and a rope. Are you gonna rope the grimoire? A rope that I kept in my room for years, patiently waiting for me to feel ready and for the moment to come. Are you gonna swing to safety? Swing away like Spider-Man? And that moment was this. Okay. I don't want to lose another person. Take a deep breath. I closed my eyes and tried to concentrate on my breathing. I paid attention to the trembling of my arms, so I linked them together, pressed them tightly against each other. I swallowed several times, listening attentively to the accelerated beating of my heart. When I felt ready, I opened my eyes again. Wait. Don't do what I think you're going to do. I looked around at the place I was in. I was in my room with no clear place to go out, except for the windows over there. I walked to the door and tried to open it, but my suspicions were confirmed. The door was locked. I tried to look for some object, something that could help me pick the lock. But what caught my room was the window next to my bed. That's it. Escape through the window. I pulled up a chair near the window and climbed up on it to reach it more easily. However, I realized there was no chance of jumping out without me making a fuss that would end up waking everyone. That's what the rope is for. Thinking about how to avoid hurting myself in the process, I grabbed some sheets from my closet and tied them to one of the legs of the bed. I checked to make sure the sheet was secure and could support my weight. Then I opened the curtain as carefully as I could, trying not to make the slightest noise and avoid attracting my parents' attention. The air rushed fiercely into my room as I opened the sliding window, showing that the night breeze had already started. No voice? It's okay, Claire, don't be scared. It's just a little effort, and then you'll be free. I looked up at the sky and tightly gripped the sheet I'd sat on the bed. I had everything ready. It was just a matter of taking courage. After a few seconds of self-conviction and holding my breath to calm my nerves, I finally jumped out of the window. Boom. I was very careful as I slowly let go of the sheet. The last thing I wanted was to take a tumble and end up breaking a bone. That would only make things worse. My feet landed on the front lawn of the house, making a small noise as I touched the grass. And there you go. I felt as if my heart was going to burst out of my chest. I could barely hold my breath long enough not to hyperventilate. Slowly, I moved away from the wall. I had climbed down, crouching down, trying to be almost invisible. I thought I said most. However, to my bad luck, a group of employees were guarding the entrance of the house, as usual. This could be a real problem. If anyone saw me, all was lost. When I saw a silhouette approaching steadily towards me, I was about to confirm that my end was soon. Couldn't make out his face because of the darkness, but when the person was close enough, I knew who it was. Is it the butler? I had a good fortune to be discovered by Johann and not by anyone else. A true miracle. Still wearing the butler outfit outside the house? Alright. Johann's face was one of surprise. He definitely did not expect this. It had never been typical behavior for me. But he knew everything I was going through and what kind of people my parents were. It also indication of my face, it's all bloodied and bruised. He would not stand between me and my freedom. I was about to mumble something, but Johann put his index finger to his mouth, indicating silence. He didn't want to draw the attention of the others. I arched my eyebrows, trying to convey some emotion with just my gaze. I was sure he got the message. Johann nodded his head and gave me a tender smile. He pointed to another path to go around the house, letting me know it was clear of employees. I nodded and walked over to where he stood, looking at him one last time before saying goodbye. I returned my gaze to the road. In a matter of few steps, I was on the sidewalk of the street. When I felt safe, I ran as far as I could without looking back. I didn't know what to do or where to go, and my mind didn't have much potential at the moment either. But at least I was free of my parents' influence. Good thing we didn't rope ourselves. I still had some money, so at first opportunity I was going to take a cab and stay in a hotel while this was sorted out. Wow, money enough for a hotel, goddamn. But even if I had nowhere to go, I didn't care if I had to go hungry and cold. I preferred it all to being mistreated. The important thing is that I was never going to let them control my life again. All the insults, abuse, and beatings were over. I had never been before. Thought about all the nuances that figures as important as my parents could have. The people, the places, the facts. Many times there's a very dark life behind those pretty faces we see in the media. This time I had been lucky enough to survive, but things could have ended much worse. If there's one thing I'm sure of, is that I'm not going to give up, especially now that I have found the courage within myself to face them. The look on my father's face when I complained to him about everything they had done was priceless. And precisely because I knew what they were capable of, I could not stand idly by. I was ready to denounce them even though they are my parents and my family name would be stained forever. And if necessary, I didn't mind going to court and testifying against them. I only hope that the authorities would prove me right and not keep silent in the face of such truth, which my parents would surely make look like an infamy. And to think that I came so close to taking my own life because of those bastards. I still had myself. I had the strength, the courage, and my will to keep fighting. At the end of the day, that's what really matters. Oh yeah. What the hell? Claire survives. We're done with chapter 3? Awesome. Purgatory, chapter 4. Yay. There you are. A gentle breeze was blowing in from the windows throughout the building. Despite the high temperature we had these days, this afternoon seemed unusually cool. It was the perfect place and the perfect time to not think about anything that might occupy my mind beyond what was necessary. Except that perhaps my future depended on this visit to the library. I was sitting in a small armchair waiting for the lady in charge of the library to bring me a book I asked for. Every corner of the place, from the objects to the people who visited it, whatever the intention, were an object of interest in my boredom. I had nothing else to do. I also didn't feel like using my cell phone because of where I was. It felt It even felt disrespectful to look at the screen occasionally to check the time. I was beginning to get desperate when I saw the lady from earlier peeking out from one of the aisles.
Sorry for the delay, miss. It took me a little while to find the book you requested.
Is this Claire or is this somebody else, a new character?
Oh, don't worry, ma'am. That's very kind of you.
Oh, it's Madison. Cool. She gingerly handed me the book and smiled, no pun intended, not because you're a ginger. I read the title silently in my mind as she placed the book in my hands. Compilation of history's most famous books in sorcery.
It's funny you should have an interest in that book.
How so? Why?
You see, this is not a book that is commonly borrowed from us.
I hadn't looked at it that way, but surely it must have seemed very strange for a student to be interested in such subjects. Even if I had a real interest beyond more research, I don't think she's the kind of person who would be shocked by it. Oh no. Oh well. I'm not really into these subjects.
Right. I wouldn't really be interested in looking at those kinds of books either. I think that the situation that I'm in forced my hand.
Seemed to be a very nice lady who really loved their job. Oh. Alright, sorry about that. I just had to adjust the mic stand. She seemed to be a very nice lady who really loved her job. Even though the woman was of an older age, she attended to each person who entered the library with the best of treats, always with kindness and respect. Our gazes met, but didn't take long before I realized it wasn't for the same reasons.
I've seen that look before.
The hell you talking about, lady? I reacted after a few seconds to the lady's unexpected phrase. I didn't understand what she was referring to, but I assumed it was just some advice she was going to give me, given my disoriented expression.
Last week I received a late-night visit from a very peculiar girl.
Last week? Oh god, everything that had happened last week. Just to think that my life took a 180-degree turn in those stormy days already made me not want to remember them.
This girl was also consulting some very particular information on these subjects. That is, about occultism and related things.
Was she a goth girl or something? Because that's normal for them. It sounded strangely familiar what happened to this girl compared to my current situation. Perhaps it was just a mere coincidence, but I would have liked to know if, even by mere chance, she could also be involved in this whole affair.
And that girl, did she find what she was looking for?
Maybe not exactly what she was looking for, but at least I was able to offer her everything in my power to help her. I just hope everything turned out well for that girl. She really looked desperate to find some answers.
I tilted my head sideways as I thought about what to answer. However, I didn't find myself able to formulate any coherent sentence with everything that was going through my mind. The older lady realized that I had nothing else to express at the moment, so she alone interrupted the silence.
Well, I won't take up any more of your time. Please enjoy your book, and let me know if there are any issues.
Issues? With the book, you mean?
Oh, yes. It seems that lately someone has a peculiar interest in tearing the pages out of these kinds of books.
It's a pity. Surely these books have a lot of historical value.
Historical value and secrets they want to keep. A young boy approached the lady and politely interrupted the conversation. The boy showed the cover of a romance book from his cell phone, asking if there were any copies of that novel. The librarian scanned the cover of the book and twisted her lips in thought. She took a tablet computer from the library and began to browse through the books they owned digitally. I watched the lady intently as I waited for her to finish our conversation, now paused by this boy's interruption. From my perspective, I could see perfectly the screen of the tablet the librarian was using. Actually, I had little interest in continuing the conversation, now that I had a possible key piece of information in my hands, and was too interested to read it. I didn't want to give the appearance of being rude, though, so I preferred to wait for the woman to finish talking to the boy. After a few seconds, something on the screen caught my eye. The username. Charlotte Gibson. It could be a mere coincidence, but it also might not be. Perhaps she works with Miss Gibson? Although it wouldn't make much sense for her to have the last name of the headmistress of Ricerfield Academy. In fact, there was some similarity in the faces of this woman and Miss Gibson. The features, the eye, the hair color, both are old as hell and wrinkly. This person must have been a relative of hers, perhaps a sister. It is strange that I haven't heard anyone mention anything about it. Maybe they don't want to make their kinship obvious. The question is, would it be the librarian or Cornelia Gibson herself who doesn't want to reveal that they are related? It's possible it could even be both. Makes sense that she would want to help us solve this mess, being the complete opposite of her sister. When I was deep enough in my thoughts, the librarian spoke up to communicate something to the boy.
I'm not sure if we have a copy of that book. In any case, follow me. I could suggest something similar if we don't find the novel you are looking for.
Why would I want to get a similar thing? I just want the thing that I'm looking for. The lady turned to me and said goodbye to continue with her work.
Oh, excuse me, miss. Have an excellent day.
You too have a tubular day to them.
Oh, of course. That's very kind of you.
They both walked away, leaving me finally with enough space to think about what mattered to me. I was finally alone. I had to start reading this book as quickly as possible. There you go. In my hands, I held a book containing a compilation of the most famous books of magic and witchcraft of all time. Although it approached them from a historical rather than a fantasy point of view, I hoped it would help me at least a little. My intention was to look for some similarity between one of those books and the one we found that night on the road. Upon opening the first page, a warning written by the book's author himself caught my attention. Dear reader, thank you for consuming this compilation, the fruit of years of effort and dedication. Please, if you value your life even a little, do not under any circumstances try to search for the location of these grimoires, as they, most of them, have been lost throughout history. A bit odd that the author himself is sharing this information with his audience when he doesn't want them to become more involved in the subject. Very similar to Don't Think of a Pink Elephant. It's obviously going to pique the interest in more than one reader to try to find something you forbade them to look for. And strangely, I didn't consult this guide to look up where these books were located, but to find out which of these was the book I had found. Perhaps it would have been a problem if I didn't remember what it looked like or what features that grimoire had, but that wasn't the case. I could remember the pages perfectly, detail by detail. Every drawing, every symbol. It was as if that image was etched in my eyes from the moment they made contact with it. As if I myself had lost the will to look anywhere else but at that book. I was confident that I would be able to identify at first glance some element that could help me recognize which of all these works that appeared in the compilation it was. On each of the pages there was a photo of illustration of the books in question, including a technical card underneath that included their name, possible authors, and the last date they were seen. So I had no choice but to search book by book for this compilation and check manually if there were similarities with ours. Title: Albino Feces, I don't know. Author unknown. Destination guarded by the Vatican since its reappearance in 1879. Title: Pictionary. I don't know. Picatrix. Author Maslama al-Majruta. Destination declared as a grimoire in 1456. Copies of the book exist in different languages. Title: Maftia. Author King Solomon. Destination found in the 17th century, preserved through several editions, whose content is probably altered by Catholic Church. A slight headache made me look away from the text. There were so many dates, images, strange words. My mind was beginning to resent having decided to read all this. I had gone through dozens and dozens of pages of each work, manuscript, or book that was mentioned seemed to be more and more obscure than the last. I was afraid that all of this was getting too complicated for me because of my inexperience and how easy it was to confuse one for the other.
The This doesn't seem to be getting me anywhere.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're right about that because you're still in the same position you're in. Indeed, all of the specimens I was seeing on each sheet looked similar to each other. Perhaps to someone very knowledgeable in these matters, they might be entirely different from each other, but to me it was difficult to tell them apart. However, just as I was about to give up and stop reading, one of the works listed caught my eye. Oh, my eye fell. Thanks for catching it, good sir. Title: Codex Abyssus. Author: Tribes of Ricerfield. Destination: unknown. Highly linked to the legends of the other region.
Could it be?
There was no actual image of the book, only an illustration of possible symbols that might be found. The image was made by the author of the compilation, which has quite a bit of merit considering the hard work and research. Yeah, these are definitely the symbols that were in the book we found that night. Amelia mentioned something like that about ancient runes, and indeed they appear to be the symbols mentioned by the author.
The Codex Abyssus.
I felt like Amelia when she tried to explain to us about everything she had found on her own. To an ordinary human being who wasn't, in such a cumbersome situation, we wouldn't seem entirely sane for believing in this. But after all we've been through, after all we've experienced, this is it. I rested one of my hands on the window and brought the other to my chin. I watched the street from the inside the library, not paying much attention to the people and cars passing by. Seeing through the window at this time gave me some peace of mind. At least it was good for me to reflect and get a broader view of everything that was going on. All of us, at least those that were left, were sure that there was something more than just coincidences. There was no way to deny it anymore, not after everything we experienced last week. Starting with having thought we ran over a person who mysteriously disappeared. Then finding that fucking book on the road that made a terrible impression on all of us. Amelia's dreams that seemed to haunt her night after night, and then her mysterious disappearance. Conrad's sudden death after being attacked by an animal that is still unknown. And only to end up finding out that we did run over one person, and that person was Mr. Harrison, found dead of unknown causes. Each passing day was a reminder that we were not safe, that something we didn't yet understand was after us. But I felt so stupid I tried to make some supernatural sense of it. This is not the way I was taught to do things. This is not what I was taught was real. But it was precisely that denial in the face of reality that made the situation worse, even taking human lives. Andrew was right. We were very foolish to think it would all end that night. If someone had told me what I was going to face, I'm sure I wouldn't have believed whoever it was. I tried to play tough in front of the others, but this situation was way beyond what I could handle. Finding out that Conrad was dead was some of the strongest news I could have received recently. And even more so considering that only a day before we had reconciled and decided to start fresh. It wasn't fair to either of us. It wasn't fair for life to take him away from me at a time when we had improved as a couple. The feeling that weighed most heavily on me was wishing I hadn't behaved so rudely to him the last few days we were together. But I wasn't able to share that with someone. If I cried so inconsolably that day, it was because of the shock of the news. Showing myself vulnerable in front of others is one of the things I have the hardest time doing. I haven't had the courage to tell anyone else about how I've really felt about it. Not even Andrew. That's why I came to the library today, to find some light that might illuminate this path that seemed to have darkened without me even realizing it. At least I had gotten a very small clue that could help us find a way out of this whole maze. I left the book on one of the tables and prepared to leave the library. I would have liked to thank the librarian again, but I was too tired to stay out any longer. With nothing else to do, I grabbed my bag and started walking towards the exit door. This had been very quiet compared to the previous ones, but it was still a very deplorable way to start the week. During school hours, I felt more melancholy than busy, perhaps because of that feeling of loss that hovered around the school as the news of Mr. Harrison's death spread. Despite this, I felt mentally drained, as if all my energy had been put into reading that bizarre compilation about witchcraft, books, and weird stuff. I just wanted to get home and sleep soundly. As soundly as I hadn't since the day we ran over Mr. Harrison. Maybe this was our punishment for having driven him to his death, to be burdened with a tormented and guilt-ridden life for our actions. For the moment, I had nothing else to do, no remedy or solution. So I just had to wait for something to happen, and I really hope it would. And still hoping. I took a glass and filled it halfway with water. That scared me. By drinking the liquid, I managed to relieve that scratchy feeling and cleared my throat. Those group debating trucks are destroying my vocal cords with all that yelling. I settled the glass on the table and prepared to go to my room. However, a strange noise caught my attention from Dad's office. I approached the room and I was about to knock on the door to see who it was. I thought it was very likely that Mom was going through Dad's things once again. She always does at this hour. However, I preferred to just open it and find whoever was inside. Oh no. I got a surprise the moment I opened the door, for the person inside of the office was my brother, Andrew. The boy was on the floor going through the contents of some old boxes that had been there for years. I leaned against the wall, resting on one of my shoulders. A few seconds later, Andrew noticed someone else in the room. Oh, Madison. Sup? No, I'm sorry. I didn't hear you come in. I intended not to let you hear me.
You got it.
I see. Can you even see in this darkness? What are you doing up at this hour? Can't you sleep either? Nah, I just got up for a glass of water. You know, I had an intense session in the debate room today and it's left my throat a mess.
You serious?
And what were you debating? Something related to climate change. Specifically about whether companies are primarily responsible for damage to the environment and stuff. And are you for or against? Gave Andrew a puzzled look but kept a smile on my face to keep the conversation relaxed. Please, Andrew, as if you didn't know me. Of course, I'm in favor of the fact that companies should reduce the impact of their emissions. Those bastards keep saying that we ordinary people are primarily responsible for harming the planet.
It could be.
Well, we are, partially. I know, but we can't put all the blame on the masses when a tiny fraction of rich people and corporations are causing the most damage to the planet. So unfair.
You got it.
Yeah, I guess you have a point. That's why people like Claire and her family annoy me. They always look pretty on the outside, but deep down they can be causing a lot of more damage than we can even imagine. What a far-fetched way to tie all this with Claire, you know?
Oh, shut up.
Well, of course not. Couldn't it be that someone has started to feel a certain fondness for her? What? My eyes widened and I put on the most shocked expression I could add at the moment. He was waiting for an answer that might satisfy his curiosity and my sudden interest in Claire. But there's nothing beyond that simple interest, is there? I mean, I didn't think myself I could generally care about anything happening to her beyond the plane of empathy I might feel for any other human being. At least I wanted to believe that, but it would be very difficult to try to convince him of that. What should I say? Okay. Maybe I don't hate her so much anymore. To be honest, I haven't felt that apprehensive these days. I mean, whatever. He's already dead, Conrad, so what's the point? I mean, I don't care what Clara does with her life. I think I learned my lesson, you know? About what? I mean, I used to make a big deal out of meaningless things. I was so concerned about preserving my relationship with Conrad that I forgot what was really important. I forgot about myself. Andrew sighed and looked down at the floor. I was told you that relationship had no future. So you're partly right. That's why we decided to start from scratch. We had agreed that everything was going to be different and things really changed from that point. Like, who would have guessed that would be the last day of his life? I said as I looked at the floor and tried to hold back the tears. It's okay. You don't have to be embarrassed about crying. I mean, we've already done it in school anyways. What's the difference crying here as well? Damn it. Madison, listen to me. Things happen for a reason. I don't think you and Conrad would have ever been happy as a couple if things continued like this. Stop it. Oh wait, sorry about that, fellas. You have to edit here because you have to prepare for work. So this is the Devil's Whisper. If you want to try it again for yourself, the links are in the description. Oh my god. We almost killed ourselves back there, but good thing we did that is all for today. Stay safe and take care of yourselves.